top stories this evening, sponsored by Courts Bringing Value Home. If a government cannot value the historic memories of Afro-Guyanese, how can it be given another chance in leadership? Elder Hamilton Green questions. M&CC promises to take matters into its own hands as Culture Ministry refuses to budge on construction works at 1823 Monument. Ministry of Education launches National Literacy Program, and Christopher Ram calls out GMSA PSC for weak trade advocacy. HGP Nightly News begins now. Good evening to our viewers here in Guyana and online. I'm ALETHEA Grant with the Thursday, 7th August 2025 edition of the HGP Nightly News. This is what we will tell you this evening. Former Prime Minister and Mayor of Georgetown, Elder Hamilton Green, is adamant that if a government cannot value the historical memories of Afro-Guyanese, then how could it be given another chance in leadership? These charges were delivered as citizens decided their future in the next 5 years. Antonia Day has more.
Given the barbarity and discomfort the African ancestors faced during the transatlantic slave trade and horrifying rebellions such as the 1823 revolt, former Prime Minister and Mayor of Georgetown, Elder Hamilton Green, is irked that the incumbent is attempting to erode the significance of African history. On Thursday, Mr. Green joined members of the 1823 coalition movement and the mayor and city council in a picketing exercise, objecting to the erection of pavilions in close proximity of the 1823 movement, even as Afro-Guyanese community observes emancipation. The former politician had this message for Guyanese when they go to the polls on September 1.
You can't support a government that is so disrespectful and has shown such disdain for the history of this country.
The site marked by the 1823 monument stands not just as a symbol of resistance and resilience, but also as a painful reminder of colonial brutality. Elder Green contends that memories of our ancestors must not be eroded by political machinations. He urged citizens to join the fight against this injustice.
It is the duty, therefore, of those of us who are assembled here to defend that sacrifice. Because if we don't, we'll be cursed. And I hope that this matter is not seen as a trivial event that should be just put aside. You have a government who is disrespectful of my ancestors.
The former Prime Minister is hoping that President Irfan Ali and those tasked with power take the necessary steps to resolve this matter.
And I call upon all Guyanese, irrespective of their race, color, or creed, but in particular, those who are descendants of those brave Africans, the Edgils, the Tuds, and others, to stand up. If they don't, their ancestors will curse them.
Meanwhile, Deputy Mayor Denise Miller and City Councillor Leland Saul give this address to the situation.
For government, don't believe in inclusiveness and consultation, it therefore means a government of disrespect. But we will not tolerate it. As my elders say, if it takes shedding my blood, as my ancestors did, we will go down that road. This ground must be left alone.
And we will take whatever action is necessary to remove that there. And I want Minister Ramsden to understand that. This property belongs to the city, and we will defend it.
Antonio Day reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
In this developing story, Antonio Day will once again tell us that Chief Citizen Alfred Mentor, citing non-cooperation from the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, has vowed to take matters into his own hands as he will not stand idly by and allow the incumbent to desecrate the historical 1823 monument located at Parade Ground. Here is more.
Tensions are flaring during the month of emancipation as the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport moves ahead with the construction of 2 pavilions and other structures in the close proximity to the 1823 monument located at Parade Ground, an area considered sacred to the Afro-Guyanese community. Alfred Mentor, mayor of Georgetown, has made it pellucid that the subject ministry has not consulted with the city council regarding the erection of these pavilions. During a picketing exercise staged by the 1823 coalition movement, the mayor and city council, Mr. Mentor told reporters that despite messages and letters to subject minister Charles Rampton Jr., no response has since been forthcoming. While legal recourse may be the next step, the chief citizen noted that given its timeliness, he's prepared to take matters in his own hands.
I might have be tempted to even rent a high marker or something else and break down this thing. Because this thing ain't working, this thing ain't right. If they could abuse or take advantage of a situation and do things unilaterally without any consultation, I might take a unilateral decision as the mayor to be able to do that and to effect the necessary changes and the necessary consequences that may have to be taken.
Mentor claimed that the mayor and city council's engineering department was already instructed to issue a cease work order. However, that order is yet to be executed. The mayor told the media that the executing officers are scared of victimization since they take directives from central government. Given it is an elections year, the chief citizen is accusing the incumbent of abusing its powers.
People are fed up with the interference. People are fed up with the micromanagement of how this government has been operating. They're doing things like they have some two-third majority.
Sister Penda Goyan, member of the Coalition for the 1823 Monument, said she's at her wit's end and will not relent until this matter is resolved.
Given that this project is continuing, legal action may be the recourse.
We see no other alternative. If that is what they want.
31 enslaved Africans who participated in the 1823 Demerara Uprising, one of the largest recorded slave rebellions in Guyanese history, were massacred at the Parade Ground. Guyana posited that any construction within the proximity to the monument, especially without proper community input, is an affront to ancestral memory. To date, the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport has not publicly responded to the backlash. Some have since speculated that the pavilions are intended for public events or commercial purposes. Also joining the picketing exercise were Deputy Mayor Denise Miller, former Prime Minister and Mayor Elder Hamilton Green, Dr. Rudy Guyana, and City Councillor Leland Saul. Antonio Day reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
Jade Jew now reports that the Ministry of Education on the Thursday launched its highly anticipated National Literacy Program. Here is more.
The newly established National Literacy Program was launched today at Pegasus Suites for a corporate center by the Ministry of Education. Mr. Mbiso Grant, the Assistant Chief Education Officer for Literacy, while giving a comprehensive rundown of the program, stated that this is not just an intervention, but a systematic structure that ensures intentional teaching of literacy at every level.
Today's launch is built on the foundation laid by those who came before me, and I must therefore acknowledge the work of Ms. Samantha Williams, the former Chief Education Officer Literacy, and other persons whose steadfast commitment to literacy created pathways for us to build upon.
She also pointed out that the renewed literacy journey began since September 2023.
We were able to expand our workforce, increasing regional literacy officers per region, appointing literacy committee members in every district, recruiting literacy support teachers for an intensive literacy program so that every district and every school can feel supported.
Speaking at this thought-provoking occasion, Minister of Education Priya Manichan focused on the legacy this program is intended to leave behind.
Nothing was rushed to finish this program. It just finished at this time. And nothing will stop us, including anyone who wants to jump out. Are we ready to jump back, by the way?
The government's 2020 to 2025 platform, she said, called for better and improved access across levels, which means building, reconstructing, or expanding schools, raising the standard of education at all levels, expanding and providing more TVET opportunities for a diverse range of students throughout Guyana, seeking better teacher training, extending the distance in education programs, expanding the school feeding program, offering Because We Care cash grants, increasing it, and above all, supplying textbooks are all part of this initiative.
We're trying to address people who the system has failed and have left the system, so they're no longer in school. How do we make sure they are literate?
Jada June reported for HGP Nightly News.
Join us after the break for more news. Welcome back with the HGP Nightly News. The Ministry of Home Affairs, in a statement on Thursday, advised the public that this image currently circulating online, claiming that Monday, September 1, 2025, has been declared a public holiday, is fake. This fabricated notice, which falsely appears to be issued by the ministry under the Public Holidays Act, did not originate from the Ministry of Home Affairs and should be ignored in its entirety, the ministry said. The ministry is urging members of the public not to share or repost this false information and to always verify announcements through the ministry's official website at www.moha.gov.gy or its verified communications platforms. In this Antonio Days report, you will hear that 27 new Peace Corps volunteers will be working in various communities across Guyana to boost public health, education, and environment. Here is more.
On Wednesday, at the Umanayana, the 36th group of US Peace Corps volunteers were sworn in with the aim of contributing to sectors such as public health, education, and environmental development. The 27 volunteers include 3 response volunteers, 5 healthcare workers and volunteers, 11 environmental volunteers, and 8 education volunteers. Nicole Therio, the U.S. ambassador to Guyana, expressed her appreciation for the efforts of Peace Corps volunteers nationwide. She expressed appreciation to the communities that had welcomed the volunteers and to the host families for their kindness.
When meeting Peace Corps volunteers, I'm always really impressed by the incredible positive relationships that they build with their host families, in their communities, and with their counterparts.
Ambassador Therio emphasized that the volunteers are the epitome of what the United States has to offer the world.
Peace Corps volunteers reflect the very best of what the United States offers the world. And just as importantly, they will bring back to the U.S. the very best of what Guyana offers.
Many of the volunteers go on to serve in government or with international organizations, continuing their journeys of impact, it was noted.
And today, you join over 3,500 Peace Corps volunteers who are on the ground today serving around the world. In coming days, when you are settled into your new communities, I encourage you to reflect on the journey that brought you here.
The contributions of the Peace Corps volunteers were also praised by Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony, who pointed out that even modest actions can have a big, long-lasting impact. Volunteers from the Peace Corps exchange skills and knowledge with the community members to help create sustainable change through work in 6 sectors, namely agriculture, community economic development, education, environment, health, and youth in development. Antonio Day reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
More news for you. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're with the HGP Nightly News. The Tourism and Hospitality Association of Guyana, THAG, is urging all political parties, stakeholder bodies, and the general Guyanese populace to uphold the code of tolerance, maturity, peace, and stability, particularly during this critical period leading up to and during and immediately after the general and regional elections. Thag said elections often come with heightened emotions and tensions, and in such times it is more important than ever that we act with restraint and unity. The hospitality body encourages citizens to de-escalate potential conflicts in your homes, workplaces, communities, and across the nation, and work together to ensure Guyana remains a safe and welcoming destination for ourselves and for all visitors, whether they are here for business or leisure. It will not be business as usual under a Forward Guyana movement government, so says presidential candidate Amanza Walton Desir. We have more details in this report.
The Forward Guyana movement at their manifesto launch highlighted erosion of trust and civic engagement as a focus point. Corruption scandals, mismanagement of oil revenues, and a lack of transparency in the public affairs have eroded trust in public institutions. Presidential candidate for the Forward Guyana movement, Amanza Walton Desir, pointed out that too often young people feel their voices are ignored by leaders and that the system is rigged against ordinary citizens.
We are fighting to restore the dignity of this nation through the empowerment of people, fighting to restore the soul of a people through respect and decency.
The current administration has gone about being corrupt. It's amazing. For every 1 kilometer of road, for example, asphaltic surfaces that's been built in this country, we spend an additional $412 million more.
Walton Desir said critically her party will address the cost of living, particularly addressing why food, housing and transportation costs have risen sharply, outpacing wage growth and pushing more families towards poverty.
We are in this fight to dismantle a political cartel that has kept people poor and vulnerable and increasingly dependent.
They also highlighted public services, focusing on healthcare, education, electricity, and public transport systems which remain under-resourced and uneven, with rural areas and the hinterland communities facing the greatest deficits, the Forward Guyana movement presidential candidate said.
I want to talk to us about corruption, because corruption does not only rob a people of their money, but it robs us of our opportunities. Improve the quality of governance by waging war on corruption and promoting transparency and accountability.
Rising crime rates and public safety concerns add to the sense of insecurity, especially among youth and vulnerable groups. The party said this too will be addressed. With a zero-tolerance approach for corruption and patronage in their manifesto, Forward Guyana vowed to end the corruption and patronage for good, replacing secrecy and bias by publishing all non-security government contracts, expenditures, communications, and official schedules so every Guyanese can track how public funds are managed and decisions are made.
First, we will have a philosophical rallying point for this nation. And then secondly, in a few days, you will see us putting out some of the highlights of the specific interventions.
Forward Guyana movement is the second political party to release its manifesto ahead of the September 1st poll. The others are expected to release theirs in the coming days. This is Marvin Cato reporting for HGP Nightly News.
As Ghana navigates a delicate trade standoff with the United States, two of the country's most prominent private sector bodies, the Guyana Manufacturing and Services Association and the Private Sector Commission, are facing heavy criticism for what some say is their silence when it matters most. Here are the details. In a sharply worded letter released on July 7, attorney and chartered accountant Christopher Ram accused the Private Sector Commission PSC and the Guyana Manufacturing and Services Association GMSA of being more concerned with appearances than with advocating for their members. Quote, political theatre masquerading as advocacy, end of quote, is how Ram described the recent actions or lack thereof, particularly in relation to ongoing trade discussions with the United States. Ram questioned whether the current leadership of the two bodies was genuinely invested in protecting private sector interests or simply using their positions to gain influence. Quote, only the leader of those bodies can say whether they seek these offices to satisfy their ego or promote their personal, business or political interest, he wrote, adding that this might explain their failure to stand up for businessman Howard Bulkan, who, quote, joined these organizations for the greater good and for proper representation, end of quote. Bulkan, a member of the GMSA and director of Precision Woodworking Limited, had made his own concerns public 2 days earlier. In his August 5 letter, Bulkan struck a more measured tone, raising questions about the lack of clarity surrounding the temporary suspension of U.S. reciprocal tariffs, a decision that holds significant implications for local exporters. Rather than directly attacking the organization, Bulkan pointed to what he called a troubling pattern of detachment. He wrote that the GMSA and PSC statements on the matter, quote, read less like endorsements than rehearsal lines, end of quote, and suggested that both groups may have been sidelined from key conversation with U.S. counterparts. One begins to suspect that the GMSA and PSC were not only not consulted, but were desperate to pretend they were, end of quote, Bulkan stated. The rift reflects a broader concern among local businesses that Guyana's private sector institutions have become too aligned with the government and too timid in defending its members' economic interests. RAM went further, asserting that these bodies have, quote-unquote, failed their members by avoiding substantive engagement with high-stakes issues like trade negotiations. At the heart of the current controversy is the 90-day hold on U.S. tariff affecting Guyanese exports. While government officials have described the pause as a diplomatic achievement, some exporters say it's unclear what long-term benefits will follow. The business community had also raised concerns about not being adequately consulted in the process. Guyana's economy, now heavily driven by oil revenues, is still dependent on traditional exports like timber, rice and sugar. The U.S. remains a key trading partner, and access to that market, particularly on favorable terms, is vital to ensuring smaller industries don't get squeezed out amid rising costs and shifting trade dynamics. Stay tuned. Regional news is up next.
Good evening and welcome to Thursday's edition of the Regional News. I'm Antonio Day. We begin with news in the region. The Organization of American States said that categorically it rejects what is termed the false and misleading allegations recently published regarding the internal functioning, human and financial resource management and political agenda setting of the hemispheric body. And I quote, "The accusations are not based on accurate facts and provide a completely out of context and misrepresented reality. Unfortunately, misrepresentations and fake news have to be countered these days," the OAS said in a lengthy statement. While the OAS did not name the source of the false and misleading article, the Antigua and Barbuda ambassador of the OAS, Sir Ronald Sanders, in his weekly column published by the Caribbean Media Corporation, noted that it was published on a website I had never encountered, and that the article is nothing less than a hatchet job on the OAS Secretary General, Albert Ramden, who is from Suriname. Ramden, who officially took up office as Secretary General on March 27 this year, succeeding Luis Almagro, has said that the basis of every action thus far has been in full accordance with the OAS Charter, rules and procedures, past and present precedents and practices, financial checks and balances, ethical standards, and the advice of the very capable workforce of the organization. He said on strategic policy issues, the Secretary General consults regularly with member states and regional groups. The OAS said too that the internal actions of the new administration have all been carried out, while the various political agendas and regular technical programs are also addressed. Turning attention to news in St. Lucia. St. Lucia's government says it has commissioned the National Insurance Corporation to present proposals for the establishment of an unemployment insurance program here. Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Philip J. Pierre said that unemployment insurance program is intended to benefit nationals who become involuntarily unemployed. Pierre told reporters that this program will show persons who have become involuntarily unemployed to receive unemployment benefits. The government is committed to establishing this unemployment insurance program, which will be implemented alongside an active labor market policy. The government says that active labor policy will support the unemployed by offering basic work training, particularly for disadvantaged groups, by securing work placements that promote entrepreneurship and small business growth, and by providing employer incentives for staff training. The government defines involuntarily unemployed as willing to work but unable due to business closures, job cuts, seasonal changes, or mismatched skills. And finally, with some international news. Angela Rayner has given China 2 weeks to explain why parts of its plans for a new mega embassy in London have been banked out. The Deputy Prime Minister's Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government sent a letter asking for further information and requested a response by August 20, the BBC established. Beijing's plans for the new embassy have sparked fears its location's Royal Mint Court near London's financial district could pose an espionage risk. Residents nearby also fear it would pose a security risk to them and attract large protests. The BBC stated that it contacted the Chinese embassy in London for a comment. Beijing's application for the embassy had previously been rejected by Tower Hamlets Council in 2022 over safety and security concerns. It resubmitted an identical application in August 2024, 1 month after Labour came to power. On the 23rd of August, Sir Keir Starmer phoned Chinese President Xi Jinping for the first talks. Sir Keir confirmed afterwards that she had raised the embassy issue. Rayner had since exercised her power to take the matter out of the council's hands amid attempts by the government to engage with China after a cooling of relations during the final years of Conservative Party rule. Thank you for watching. I am Antonio Day. Goodbye for now.
If a government cannot value historic memories of Afro-Guyanese, how can it be given another chance in leadership? Elder Hamilton Green questions. M&CC promises to take matters into its own hands as Culture Ministry refuses to budge on construction works at 1823 Monument. Ministry of Education launches National Literacy Program. And Christopher Ram calls out GMSA, PSC for weak trade advocacy. Those are our major headlines for these stories and more. Please go to our website. It's www.hgptv.com. I'm ALETHEA Grant. Thanks for watching.